Entrepreneur, artist, conservationalist, and world traveler Mr. Paul Schulz owns a ranch in Winter Haven called the Outback Oasis. From this unique property, Mr. Schulz dedicates his time and efforts to his artwork, the promotion of conservation, ecology, and extinction education. Commissioner and Board Chairman Todd Dantzler and Paul Schulz are here to tell us more about this unique venue. Hello and welcome.
Yeah. Hello, thank you. In your introduction, you covered a lot of bases, and certainly I aspire to be helpful on all those different topics.
Very good. Well, where did your appreciation of the natural world first start?
Just at birth. Like Todd, I grew up in Winter Haven. My grandfather came in the teens. He graduated in a class of like 200 people at the University of Florida. He was the largest fern grower in the world for a little while in Auburndale. And he started Polk Nursery, and he started some other businesses, including Florida Chemical that I ran for 20 years, and it flourished and as an outgrowth of pioneering applications for citrus oil. And but in any case, my dad, he majored in biology at the University of Florida. He studied with Archie Carr, who's the father of sea turtle conservation, and back in the 30s traveled to Mexico on zoological trips and things like that. And then when I was 11, in the summer of '72, I got to go with a group of naturalists from the University of Florida to the Galapagos Islands. And it was a big deal back then because it's not like today when you fly on a plane. We took a freighter ship off the coast, the west coast of South America, Guayaquil, Ecuador. And literally I was a part of helping some of the top zoologists in the country at the time do research there. And 2 years later, with a gentleman who was a co-leader of that trip, I got to go on the Rio Napo in Ecuador, a tributary of the Amazon, to a jungle lodge for a few weeks. And and that was when I was, I guess, maybe 14.
Yeah, it sounds like you were 13 when you went to the Galapagos.
Yeah, I was 13 on that particular Amazon trip. But I'm mentioning that because on my dad's side of the family, there were a lot of extraordinary things with nature. And also my dad, he was looking for property for the family to own that was natural property. And he ended up buying 300 acres near Tavares, Florida, actually close to Astatula, Florida, just beautiful property. But he found that property when he was looking for the Girl Scouts they wanted a Girl Scout camp. And my dad found the property that became Camp Wildwood. And today at Camp Wildwood, there's the Griffin Nature Center. And they use a painting of mine of a Luna moth as their icon for their learning center. But as a kid, I used to go to Camp Wildwood back when there were no habitations, when the camping committee was first planning the layout for what now is just extraordinary infrastructure for the Girl Scouts. But it was a real treat as a kid to go up there and catch snakes and put out lights at night to attract bugs and all those sorts of things.
Now, you mentioned a piece of your artwork. When did the art?
Well, that's the other side of my family. My grandfather Pringle was a master engraver in New York City. And he did bond certificates. He designed the soap jacket for Camay soap and did the cover for Whitman's chocolates and things like that. And so as a kid, I did art with my grandfather. And my mom came to Polk County to Winter Haven back in the 50s. And she was an Ivy Leaguer from the Northeast. She went to Smith College and she worked for CBS. She did research for Edward R. Murrow. In fact, during the McCarthy hearing, she was involved with getting research for that. But anyway, she came to Winter Haven back then and found our community lovable but very sterile from a cultural standpoint. And she helped start the community theater in Winter Haven. Huh. And then for years, she was a professor at Polk Community College, which is now Polk State College. And she taught French, humanities, and English. She loved mythology. She studied with Edith Hamilton at Smith, and Edith Hamilton's kind of the guru of mythology, and so she from that side of my family, my point is, I had art on the one side and the love of nature on the other side. And I guess my whole life has been creative, but inspired by nature. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody's inspired by nature in one way or the other. Because the beauty as we know it comes, from organic things.
Yep. Now, how did Outback Oasis come about?
I love to paint with a brush, but I love to plant, I love to garden, and as I evolved and had the opportunity to acquire land, first across the street from Outback Oasis on Country Club Road, and then later the land that became Outback Oasis, I enjoyed sometimes painting with a bulldozer, clearing, like I did some wetland restoration projects. And I actually have had a lot of compliments from Swift Mud that I did it right. But in any case, the land where Outback Oasis is on Country Club Road is very special. Geologically, it's an old clay pit. And back when I was a kid, my parents were founding members of the Lake Region Country Club, and we drive on the old road, which later became Country Club Road, and it winded through the clay pits. And apparently back in the old days, that's where all the high school kids came to swim and have parties and things.
Before our time.
Before our time, yes, yes, which is going way back. But because the water there is so clear, I mean, it's just a wonderful geological feature that's unique. And so I had the opportunity when I started digging ponds. The first one that became Outback Oasis was because my wife at the time needed a clay base for her riding arena. And rather than buy this very expensive clay that would have cost a fortune, I correctly surmised that if we dug on the property, we would find a comparable product. Huh. And sure enough, we did. But the byproduct of that when I started digging, was this beautiful, clear water came out of the white gumbo clay. And it was like, holy tamale, this is a paradisiacal setting. Huh. So of course I couldn't control myself, so then it's like, I need some palm trees. And then once I put some palm trees, I needed some more palm trees. And it just evolved.
Now, from a designer's, we have a description from the designer. You have been to the property. What do you think of it from an appreciation?
It is a wonderful place to get away from the world. When he says he bought a couple of palm trees and needed a couple more, he didn't stop there. I mean, you can't hear the road that's 20 feet away. You don't really realize what you've left into what you've gone into. People know it as a place where there's a couple of kangaroos, but it's so much more than that. It is a place where Paul's been very generous with his property, and they've had fundraisers for different entities over time. His philanthropy is incredible. I've known Paul since we were kids, and I didn't know any of this background. I just knew that he had gone to the Amazon. So the stuff that he just told you is I'm hearing it for the first time. And regarding his mom, my older brother has written 3 books. Paul's illustrated them, and his mother was the editor. And so, I mean, the family ties there go way back. So Paul and I have been friends for a long, long time. His older sister's a year ahead of me. Paul's a couple years behind me, and his younger sister's a year or 2 behind my younger brother. So we've known the Schulz's family for a long, long time. Fantastic folks in the Winter Haven area. And Uncle used to be mayor of Winter Haven.
Yeah,
back
my
in the
uncle
day.
was mayor. Todd's dad, Pop, was our mayor when I was a kid. Huh. So the city political stuff goes back, but just engagement with the city. We both come from families that have been very active, promoting the betterment, the evolution of the city of Winter Haven to be its potential, whatever that is.
Yeah, but getting back to what you said is, what's it like in there? I mean, seriously, you get back there, you can't even see where Paul's house and 2 or 3 other houses are. He's landscaped them so strategically that you literally, you see a pavilion, which is a centerpiece there, and some tables. He's got some restrooms set aside, but they're tucked away. So you really kind of just can go back there and forget about what's bugging you for the day.
Nice.
And I think he does that a lot at the end of the day, is sits out back with a glass of wine and hangs out with his kangaroos.
Yeah, well, as Outback Oasis was evolving, when I'd have people over there, more and more people were like, oh my God, can we have our such and such fundraiser or this or that?
A wedding or
and I started out just doing it, but then as I started doing that, then the reality set in with any venue. If you're having people, you have to correctly, have handicap equipped things, there's permitting, there's
the government got involved.
The government got involved. And so that evolved, and then of course there are expenses, so I have, it's evolving, but trying to find a way to monetize a venue in a way that at least subsidizes it so it can flourish. So far, I've done extraordinary things. So many young people, school kids, different groups, handicapped people, an Alzheimer's group, fundraisers that have just been extraordinary have happened out there. I mean, probably to date, probably close to $100,000 has been raised at various events there.
I would think easily.
But I've subsidized it, and so that's unsustainable. So now I'm working with the city folks. I'm currently county zoning, but I have contiguous property that together with the opportunity with the city of Winter Haven to put a road through that would be helpful, to come up with a development project for the whole property that's smart development. Yeah. That's better than the alternative, because I'm contiguous with property that's high density housing. That's what we have. That's compatible use, is just more tract homes. And that would be a real shame, because this location is, if you know Winter Haven as Todd does, as I do, it's absolutely unique, and it's just a few minutes, literally a few minutes from Legoland, and of course we're all close to Disney and everything else. And I'm right down the street from a championship golf course that's floundering, and I'm in a position, if this in time allows the connector road to go through my property, it literally would give the neighbors a 3.5 mile shortcut to downtown Winter Haven.
That's excellent.
So the potential is just phenomenal. And also, I would argue that now Cypress Gardens is no longer Cypress Gardens, it's Legoland, which is great, but we don't have a venue like we've had for years that was so special, like the gardens used to be, for people to gather in a unique setting. Well, and my entity could fill that void. And
yeah. Well, let's take a quick break, and we'll talk about Outback Oasis, the future, when we come back.
Hey, I'm Dave Ramsey. You hear me on the radio, and my family loves playing on the lake just like you do. And I'm partnering with the Corps of Engineers to provide valuable advice that could help you save your life or the lives of your loved ones. When visiting Corps Lakes, always wear a life jacket. Swim in designated areas. Keep close watch of children in the water. And remember, alcohol and boating never mix. Making water and boating safety a top priority is the best way of taking care of the people you treasure most. From my family to yours, have fun, be safe, God bless, wear it.
I realized something was wrong when my family didn't get home at the time they were supposed to get home.
This drunk driver, he hit our family's boat, killed my mom and sister. It impacted everybody's lives deeply, and our family was shattered.
2 people dying, a man losing his house, his boat, and going to prison, and a family torn apart by tragedy.
Oh, look, a redhead. Staring contest.
You still got it.
I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Cost of family time activities getting you down?
Hello, I'm Dr. Spruce. If you or someone you know needs a healthy dose of nature, visit discovertheforest.org to find out which park or forest is closest to your family.
Acorns are not real currency, but that's okay because parks or forests are either free or super affordable. It's a truly economical way for the whole family to enjoy each other's company and bond beyond the confines of concrete buildings and rush hour.
My son has been drinking, and I think he's using drugs.
I just feel so ugly. I don't want anybody to see me.
So sad all the time. I can barely get out of bed.
I just needed to talk to someone because I miss him so much.
Stand strong. No matter what you're going through, there is hope at the end of the line.
Focused on the family. How can we help?
Hi, I'm Peter, and there's nothing I love more than sharing vegetables with my friends.
Come on in! Help yourself to anything.
That's why we give our food the utmost respect it deserves. Did you know there are simple steps we can all take to help save food? You can cook it, store it, even share it. Just don't waste it. Because when it comes to food, better ate than never. To learn more, visit savethefood.com.
Welcome back to the Commissioner's Report. Before we talk about the future of the Outback Oasis, Commissioner Dantzler, what do you mean kangaroos?
Paul's got a couple of kangaroos out there at the property, and they're kind of the logo of the Outback Oasis. And the legend is that he won them in a craps game in Texas. And I'm not sure if you want to expound on that and tell us how you really acquired them, or it's an urban legend. I could be wrong.
Yeah, we're blessed to have commissioners that are fun and full of personality and good jokesters. Why kangaroos? I was in Australia some years ago with my family, and if you go to Australia, every little city there has a petting zoo, and you get to interact with kangaroos, and you find out that except for the males that are full of testosterone, they're generally fairly docile, friendly, curious, photogenic, all those things. And so I was challenged at the time, well, why don't I get kangaroos? And I thought about it. So when I came back to the States, sure enough, on Google, you can look up, you can find someone who breeds about anything. And so I found breeders in Texas and flew them over. My oldest one, Joey, he's now 9, and Ozzy, is about 5, but I flew them over as babies and raised them on a bottle. And they're neutered male red kangaroos, and red kangaroos are among the largest kangaroo species, but also the most iconic. They have the beautiful classic shape. But besides being just extraordinary pets, the truth is if more people had access to kangaroos, everybody'd want one, I think. They're just such a hook with kids as far as the wonder of nature, because they're such an interesting animal, and clearly they're not an animal that kids see every day. And when they see them up close, and in the cases if I'm with the kids, and they get a chance to pet them and feed them a granola bar, that's one of their favorite snacks.
They're very healthy animals.
They are. But they're extraordinary, and they just, to the extent that Outback Oasis is a celebration of the wonder and beauty of nature, the kangaroos overachieve at being the wonder of nature. And as far as the beauty of nature, my 10 acres, it's Outback Oasis, is laced with butterfly plants. So I would argue, the highest density of butterflies in Polk County in that space. And then in addition to the butterflies, of course, I have heavy vegetation, including some really exceptional botanical plants. I have a double cabbage palm, our state tree, and it's very rare in nature. There's only so many of them known in the state, and I have one. And then I have some other, I have an old ponytail palm that looks like the Lorax tree from Dr. Seuss, which again is perfect. If you talk about conservation and extinction and bad land use practices, well, there's a Lorax tree.
Yeah.
And I have another palm tree that was a huge reclinata date palm that I call Medusa, because it's multi-trunks and goes around, and the spiral of the one trunk is perfectly situated for people to have their special photographs sitting on. It's like a bench.
Huh.
So I call it the Medusa palm.
Excellent.
And that's out of Dick Pope Sr.'s playbook. He used to name everything, like there was the whispering tree and the such and such tree. So I had the Medusa palm, and but it was formed down South Florida when Hurricane Andrew threw an oak tree on top of this potted reclinata date palm, and it grew into this fantastic shape. And then a developer in Tampa spent a fortune bringing it up. Huh. And then went out of business, so it never got planted, and I had a chance to get it, but it literally took a crane to put it in. But it's an example of many botanical wonders that are at Outback Oasis. It's not just the usual suspects with the landscaping. It is truly an eclectic mix of exotics and natives.
So
and,
where is Outback Oasis going?
Well, it's a work in progress. Where I'd like to see it go is that it'll become our local Bach Tower. Coincidentally, I don't have a tower. I'm not going to have a tower. However, I do have something extraordinary. Ken Treaster, who's in our midst, he's a retired architect who designed most of the Miami skyline. He designed the Holocaust Memorial in Miami. And he was friends with Frank Lloyd Wright, and was with him back in the day when he was in Florida doing the Florida Southern. And Ken Treaster has fallen in love with Outback Oasis, and he designed a structure that we call the Nautilus. It's made out of Ipe wood, and it describes a Euclidean formula in nature that's a mathematical formula for spirals. Oh. And so we call it the Nautilus, because the Nautilus is an example of a spiral in nature, just as other.
And it's a really cool thing. It's not any bigger than this room, but depending on which time of day, where the sunlight falls, the light's different inside of it. I mean, it's a very simple yet incredibly complicated design all in one piece. So
yes, as Todd's saying, it's beautiful, the aesthetic of it, the lines of it, but on top of that, it's done just like Frederick Homestead did Bach Tower, and he's a famous guy. He designed Central Park. Ken Treaster literally is one of the most famous living architects on the planet, and he designed this. So I have something on the property that's an artistic creation that will be a legacy piece that in time I think will be something that people would go, oh my gosh, in Winter Haven there's Treaster. Mm. And so Outback Oasis, to the extent I have natural creations that show beauty of nature, there's some artistic creations of which I've in that section of Outback Oasis I call it an art garden. I have some reproductions, two-dimensional reproductions of my own artwork that I want to install around that are examples of my art, but it's art inspired by nature. So, so anyway, where it's going was a question, and I hope, like Bach Tower can be used during the day by the public for lunches and strolling around. Kids can come, classrooms can come on field trips, but also in the evening it would be just kind of a low impact venue for wonderful dinner parties and things like that. And then if I'm successful with the zoning opportunity with the contiguous property, eventually there could be some sort of beautiful retreat center So you could have an indoor venue that would be right next door for if the celebrations wanted to have music and parties and things. It would be an all-weather appropriate place for that to coexist with Outback Oasis for the outside stuff, for cocktails and things like that. So it would be a full-service entity that would totally be invisible to the neighborhood as far as any sort of issue with noise or lights or any of those sorts of things. But on the flip side, be something extraordinary for the public to use. And I would like to think, as a collaboration with the other stakeholders, that the evolution will turn out to be something that truly is beloved. You know, in years to come, I don't want the neighborhood to say, well, he gave us this. I'd like everybody to say, wow, we have Outback Oasis, we have this entity that, thank God we have that, because otherwise it would just be track houses. I would love for it to become a beloved, special place that the public can use and enjoy in meaningful ways, for celebrations, just for a quiet time to interact with the landscaping and the beautiful nature that's there, an inspiring place.
A peaceful place.
A peaceful place. And, you know, it's just the opportunity there to have it be something that truly is unique and special, and a platform for positive gatherings, and also hopefully inspiring to young people that have the opportunity to see the beauty but also see the kangaroos, and from that maybe that'll be a stepping stone to conversations about conservation, ecology, where we're going on this planet with all the impacts that humanity has. And if the young people don't care, then all the critters that I care about and everybody else cares about, they're not going to have a very good future. Yeah. So I've in just the short time I've done what I've done, what's kept me going has been the reflection from people, especially young people, that just go nuts when they meet the kangaroos. I have huge fish. I have fun things, but great examples of just again the wonder and beauty of nature.
His passion is very infectious.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
I think if you look up in the dictionary what good steward of the land is, you'll find Paul. And I think you've heard for the last few minutes what his plans are for his property, what his visions are for his property, and his passion is for his property. And I think everything he's doing at the Outback Oasis is for all the right reasons and should be an example for many to follow.
Well, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, well,
and
thank
we look forward to hearing more about Outback Oasis. Will you come back next year and tell us how it's going?
Of course. Our community deserves whatever it can evolve into.
Yeah.
We deserve it.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us for another Commissioner's Report.